that step, you want to change, fine. Just have to resubmit all the components. So it's better to go through that, in a more thorough way than to rush it, right? Especially in the first 3-4 weeks when you come in with the product to work on, and then go through with collecting the evidence. Now, evidence support may include forecast models, point calculation, FEA calculation, obviously CADing it, prototyping it. Those to us and market validations, right? To us are evidence. Provide as much as you can, right, on various fronts. Especially on things that we have comments on, and then just sort of prove us wrong. In the past, we have, I think last year we had 3 teams that were pretty successful in the sense that the market was not as complicated as one would think, and then we're able to actually push this as a Kickstarter campaign. So I think out of the 3, there's only still 1 group working on the project, just because the team has other prerogatives to be job hunting and doing something else. But what we're really hoping is to have 1 or 2 of you guys to come up with a commercializable product, even for your own experience. It's not about success or not, it's about the journey. So especially at this young age, right, at this early time in your career, going through as many iterations of this will help you downstream. Your future employer is going to look at your resume and say, oh, good, Kickstarter campaign 3 times through, although not successful in either. You've actually gone through that product cycle, right? And so they'll be more likely to believe in your skills than to just say high distinction in fluid dynamics, blah blah blah. It's not going to, on paper, it's not as convincing as in the actual product result. So we've asked that at the end, be mindful to package, right? I say package, to just make a convincing statement, to put it in your resume how this showcase your skills. Right? Kickstarter campaign are for those particular teams that are, it would depend on your decisions, right? It would depend on your designs. And then hopefully, at the end, because we in that Shark Tank event, we'll be inviting industry partners on board to, watch you guys do the job. Hopefully you'll impress them, and then maybe have some job internship lined up. Now, it's obviously not at our discretion if those internship will be available, but your job at that space is to impress whoever. So just be mindful that you're trying to work up to that level. So this is the overall schedule. Now, this thing is on Island. You can check it at your own time, but basically it just goes through with what I just said. It's a flowchart approach. At any time, if you wanted to step out and redo it, fine. It's up to your group to decide. But then you have to go through all that again. Obviously, if you're changing ideas, we'll just jump straight into week 3. And each of those week blocks has an associated assignment task. Okay, so only about 2, 4, 6 tasks. And most of them are teamwork. Okay, so we know the complication of working in teams now. Been through multiple iterations of that. Accountability is, I can't stress enough on that, right? It's up to your group to detail to who's responsible for what, okay? Break that down. And again, in the final submission, we expect you to have a clean breakdown of who did what. The more accountability you can say, the better. Don't just have 2 people working on the introduction. Just have 1 person do that, right? So you know if they didn't do it, it's empty. Right? It's pretty clear cut that way. Again, we want you to succeed, so do whatever is necessary. Okay, so team formation. There's a link here. Now, I'll probably ask you guys to do this before you guys depart. But form your own groups and be wary who's in what class. Unfortunately, that's something that we can't control. Timetabling open like 4 classes in one go. You saw my email earlier last week say that some classes were cancelled just because you can't have 2 members in a class and have a team. So we've consolidated those classes. Click on that link, you can scan the QR code and just drop in your name, your student ID, and the team name. All right. Obviously, you can choose your own team this time, so that will be fun. Organize yourself and brainstorm ideas. So I'm going to start off everyone on starting to brainstorm those pain points. So who has heard of value proposition or business canvases? Show of hands. Yeah, one, no? Okay. So business canvas is a pretty standardized tool by now. Industry often use that to brainstorm or have a controlled discussion on, where the value is for whatever that you're doing. So if you're providing a service, how do you persuade your stakeholders that there's value in whatever they're buying, right? And we would need you to start thinking from that perspective. Now, the way to define value is if you're solving someone's problem, which are the pain points, or you're providing them with some sort of benefit, which are gain points. So through this structured brainstorming session, not here, but this tool, you'll be able to come up with a somewhat of a tangible element to work on, right? If there's a lot of pain in a certain activity that you do, right? Perhaps you can think about solutions to resolve that. And if there's many people out there that has a similar problem, then that becomes a product, right? Potentially you have people swapping money for that particular value, right? So we say, emphasize on everyday pain points. Now, everyone has their own unique experience in life, so bring that to the table, right? Don't think that, I'm just a student, I don't know what I'm doing, I have no idea, right? That's not true, because you often have your perspective, and you need to start thinking about that. So in week 1, which is next week's week 2, workshop 1, you'll bring to the table at least five of those pain points and targeted themes, and then we'll go through it with other activities to start thinking on what potential solutions you can start thinking on. Apply the value proposition canvas, which there will be linked, and there's a YouTube clip, which I think is a pretty good explanation. I think it's from the company who created it. Basically, they tell you how it's to be used effectively. The other thing is 3M visit. So we've engaged industry partners after last year to try and get some realistic problem sets or perspective on this subject. So luckily, 3M up the road has offered to partner with us in this sense. And at their showroom, they've got this innovation showroom, right? All the products or the innovation or innovative products that they have, they've got a showroom for it, and we'll try and do that excursion in week 3. So that's in this time slot. Now, the question is, does everyone have their own transport? Or at least can partner with someone who has transport to North Ryde? We'll probably finalize this discussion in the first workshop, but if not, let us know. We'll expect you to partake in this event because A, it's showcasing us as a student cohort, B, the engineering at Macquarie, and it's also good for your education just to see something that normal people won't be able to access. So they've got showroom on how 3M stickers comes about, but there's a lot more other products than just 3M sticky notes. Right? It's a holding company, so they have a lot of business-to-business products that no one would have heard of. So that is now finalized in week 3. So cross out week 2. It's week 3. I'll again put up an announcement on iLearn just before. So this is the value proposition canvas I spoke of. Link is here. We're going to spend a lot of time on perfecting those 3 boxes before we jump into calculations and prototyping testing. In your first phase, obviously, just generate ideas, judge later. Separate that 2 processes out. I think you've heard enough about me talking about the thinking process since year 1. Basically, humans are quick to judge. You need to put aside that. So I advise everyone to start writing, right? Have a notebook. Start writing the ideas down. You can, if you're technologically savvy, go on a Google Doc and just have a collaborative Word document. And to start dropping those ideas. Because once you've dropped the idea onto a page, research has shown that it unloads your cognitive processes. So you're free to think about something else without jumping to that solution idea again. Right? We've also had that experience before. We keep trying to come up with new ideas, but we just keep gravitating with something we've said already. Now the issue is because your brain is still holding on to that memory, write it down and then the brain is free to do something else. And then just create a long list of ideas to judge later. Okay, so suggested ideas, focus. So who here has a part-time job of some sort? Great. Almost all of the class. Wow. I don't know what happened last.
Do you want to hear about the fetish?
Huh? Yeah, go.
No.
So, hobbies. I would probably chat about hobbies. Let's say some fetishes. Those I made, alright? So. I don't know if it's. I don't know if it's right to say it, but there is this company.
No, it's not.
All right. You can look up. Maybe I'll give someone sites. Observation of others and existing solutions.
I mean, I call them hobbies, but my parents don't see it that way.
Probably. Right. Just like it's the converse, right? Observation of others and existing solutions. Right? So this is the thing. Once you have an idea, you might go through and go, why isn't this out there? Like, why hasn't someone made something like this? It sounds so trivial. But maybe it's because of the finance, right? It just there isn't a big enough market, or that it costs too much, it's not going to be a return on investment. That is something that we will be considering, and so it's also worthy to start thinking alongside. You don't want to go through the whole process and then realize, oh, it takes $400 to make it, but we can only sell it for $220. That's not going to be viable, right? And then we're going to say at that point, it's like, well, I thought about it earlier. So just be mindful why something isn't an existing solution. It's not that it's a bad idea, it's just that it's not feasible to do it. Obviously, note this down in the share drive or journal. I advise everyone to have a journal, just because you can make sketches of your products, right? As you're communicating your ideas to your peers, you need to draw that out somehow, right? You can't just expect to CAD everything, right, on the fly. So pen and paper, old school, just do that. It makes a lot of sense. Okay, so the ideas, number of product variants, and then possibly number of products that you'll end up getting. It's along the lines of 1 to 5% success rate. So if you have 100 ideas, you might actually only get 5 of them working, or at least worthy to do further calculation and investigation. I've mentioned how you can consider things that are novel, right? That innovative, or simplicity, really. It's the contrary. Like, you don't want something that is a system that has 50 cat cards. Between the 4 members, right, you're not going to be able to do that sort of in-depth calculation. So don't go up to that. Even a rice cooker is in the order of 30 or so cat components. So just be mindful. Now, who and why something is to be made or consumed, it's something that you'll be doing later down the track. Now, because this is not really a linear process, it's really hard to scaffold it in a 13-week progression. So you need to start thinking on all these terms early on. Sharka and I are going to put up all the lectures from last year so you can make a good start on knowing what are the different phases. But officially, with the due dates of certain assignments and assessments, it is in a certain week. All right. Now, market survey is something that you'll have to do at least for 2 weeks. Now, you might want to start considering that now by talking to other people outside your group and team, because you'll be so invested into it that you have blind spots in your thinking logic. Talk to, say, grandparents, or talk to friends, something like co-workers or whatnot, on if they would use it, but don't give away ideas too much. So we'll go through with how to stage a conversation or questionnaire, but not revealing too much to them, because you don't want to lead them in a certain direction when you're asking them questions. You want to do this concurrent to your ideation process, so then at some point, if there's something worthy, then you can jump straight into it, and not have to teach all the work that you've put into it. So this is the spectrum that we're hoping that you guys will be developing products for. Note how on one side there's a backyard sort of innovator approach where you're really literally designing a product for yourself. right? You're duct taping things, it works, does the job, you're not going to sell it to anyone. Whereas on the complete other spectrum, you're designing products like iPhones that has a billion users, or maybe not, right? 200 million, something like that. Anyways, the point is that it's for mass market, so there's a lot of time spent in market validation and surveys and multiple iterations. You can expect that a phone, right, will have, I don't know, 8 to 10 product cycle before even a release into market on the first version, right? And then every 18 months there's a new version, and then there's concurrent pipelines. You can see how they achieve that cycle, right? Like if you look at Samsung, they're doing another, what, S10 now? So every 18 months, but in between that S9 and S10, right, they had other phones along the way. So they've been testing what works, what doesn't work, integrating into a flagship product, and then moving along. You're not going to have that liberty to do those cycles, so just go through this particular one, which is come up with an idea, validate the market,